Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring myself up against the legendary Adam Shadow, and it is going to be Wood Elves taking on Vampire Counts in the mighty fields of Pillar of Bone, and this is a new style of build I've been trying from the Wood Elves in this matchup. I'm trying to get a little better with Wood Elves in general, so of course all feedback is welcome as well. And normally an Air Core is expected in this matchup. It's very powerful to have their Sisters of Twilight up in the skies and a bucket ton of Hawk Riders. The Vampire Counts can struggle to kind of counter their Air Force, although a lot of players have discovered they actually own their own version of Tempest, and almost everyone brings it. At the same time, Vampire Counts, although they are a slow faction in the melee department of all their foot troops, have a ton of fast fellbats as well as scurvy dogs, or direwolves I should say, who can pop in and hunt down a lot of your ranged troops. So instead, we're going absolutely full combat box mode to try and counter out the Counts. For our forces, we have Eternal Guard with shields. Looks like we've gone for 3 here, although I have switched this up to 4 in recent builds. But 3 Eternal Guard with shields along the front line to hold the enemy back. We have the Loix Tricksters, Regiment of Renowned War Dancers on the left-hand side, and some more on the other side as well. In the central pocket, we have the Firebark Elders, Regiment of Renowned Treekin, who are going to be supported by some Blade Singers here. Blade Singers, pretty damn good in this matchup. They do magic damage, of course. They can also switch it up, so they do have better base weapon damage and worse armor piercing with Whirl and Death. Very good to help clear out chaff, although they are a little bit expensive. We have a nice little blob of characters and single entities here as well. We have a Glade Captain. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of the Glade Captain if you have seen my recent Wood Elf replays. Horn of Aisha as well as Dance of Loec is going to increase everyone around them melee defense by 5 and melee attack. Stacked on top of the fact the Branch Wraith already gives everyone plus 5 melee attack. That's plus 10. That's certainly not too shabby whatsoever. We're also going to bring in Earthblood as well as Scroll of Shielding on the Branch Wraith. We have a basic Tree Man who is silver chevroned at the moment, as well as mighty Papa Durthu. Durthu is going to be coming in with Sword of Daith, as well as a Flock of Doom, Manticore Summon, and the Curse of oh god, I'm going to butcher this, Anorrea is what we're going to say. Again, I have cut that though in recent builds. Now, the Lamination of Despair, you may have seen the title of this video. Durthu secretly has a shotgun, and he has had this entire time. Lamination of Despair is a burst magic missile, which I used to perceive as being pretty useless. But much like the Sisters of Twilight with their spread shot in close quarters, if you punch a large entity, say a Vargulf or a Terrorgeist, this does disgusting damage because normally at mid to long range, a couple of the beams of it are going to miss. But if you're point blank range, it's impossible to miss and it does humongous shock damage, working in a similar way to a shotgun. So we'll have to see how that performs today. In the back line, my opponent has Direwolves and the Dire Pack, the Regiment of Renowned version. And his main battle line is going to be a mixture of zombies, cheap, cheerful, and very unhappy to be here, meat shields, and skeleton warriors, just dotted throughout, with a couple of Grave Guard. It looks like 2 Grave Guard in that centre to make it a bit more of a solid battle line. For my opponent's kind of hard-hitting units here, we have double Vargulfs. Vargulfs, gigantic, scary, bat-like creatures who can pack an absolute punch. He also has a Von Carstein Vampire Lord. If we look over here, is coming with the Storm of the Night, which is that Vortex spell, which is very scary now for Wood Elf players, particularly because a lot of your air troops, though fast, are particularly squishy. Undead Resurgence, we have the Charmed Shield, Raise Dead, Dance Macabre, as well as Invocation Heck. Nice little toolkit there. We also have double Blood Knights. Blood Knights are going to be very scary for me. They're going to be pretty useful at dealing with my Tree Men, as well as cycle charging down a lot of the squishier targets. Even War Dancers need protection up against Cavalry. Yes, they have that beautiful anti-large, and also some very cool attack animations and just models in general. One of my favourites for sure. They do get run over by Cavalry quite easily. So we're going to be falling back a little bit, just trying to take the zombies on our shield walls where possible. And we get a little over-eager here. I spot the Vargulfs slightly isolated. We charge in the War Dancers, getting the charge on them, trying to get some nice free damage. We're also going to be moving over the Firebark Elders as well as the Treemen and Durthu, just to help support this engagement where possible, because we are a little over-isolated on this side. And the Direwolves know this. It looks like they're going to be flooding into the back lines, hopping on top of the Loix Tricksters, and they're a perfect counter to my squishy Elves. To try and counter-punch this, we will be dropping an Earthblood as well as a Scroll of Shielding down on these ladies. The Dance Macabre is active, whopping that melee attack up massively high to 50 on the Direwolves, doing some huge damage, tearing apart my very expensive unit. I don't have too much to kind of counter-punch this. The Scroll of Shielding did go down as well as an Earthblood, but a little bit too late from me there. Vargulfs are currently surrounded by Firebark Elders, which is fine for me. We do fire damage. And of course, Vargulfs with that regeneration, one of which just gets slapped in the face by a Tree Man, are weak to fire, of course. Along the battle line, Blade Singers are going to be doing the dirty work, getting in there with their dual-wielding swords, with this kind of magical, poisonous aura around their blades, carving the way through zombies with deadly efficiency. Not a fight you certainly expect them to lose by any stretch of imagination. The back line, our nice little war dancers are trying their best to counteract the Blood Knight pressure in the back lines. We've done a pretty impressive amount of damage onto the enemy, but at the same time, we are kind of struggling by simply being run over time and time again. Looks like the mighty Vargulf is standing his ground in front of Durthu, and we are going to come in with that shotgun attack. So boom! Look at that burst damage, it is absolutely ridiculous. Just from that big burst, as well as the Manticore in the back, that Vargulf is starting to crumble and going down very, very, very quickly there. And the shotgun blast was a success. This Vargulf minus 58 leadership is certainly going to crumble into dust. The back line is an absolute mess at the moment. Lurk Strixers are going down and running for the hills. We kind of have Eternal Guard shuffled all over the place. We spread out our box a little too much, trying to engage the enemy on multiple different fronts, which isn't the way to play a box build whatsoever. We should have been far more patient. So I need to learn with these type of builds, because I don't tend to play this kind of style of play. Manticore is going to be charging after the second Vargulf, just trying to do as much damage as possible. It is a summon, I know it's going to run out eventually, so may as well try and chip away at that health bar of the mighty beastie. In the centre line, the Eternal Guard have turned around, forming a mighty shield wall to hold back all the Blood Knights and other scary units, while our Tree Men and Treekin get to work alongside the Blade Singers, who are carving their way through the Grave Guard now, up to 85 kills, which is certainly no joke. More zombies are slumberously wandering over towards the battle line. Durthu roars in their face before turning to engage the Grave Guard, looking to flatten this element of my opponent's build as quickly as possible. Lance Macabre has been popped on top of the Blood Knights as they try to go in after my Blade Singers. We're going to counterpunch with a Sword of Dave, catching both the Grave Guard as well as the Blood Knights, doing some nice work. And we're going to try and carve our way through the infantry as quickly as possible to kind of limit the amount of cycle charging, or at least the effectiveness of the cycle charging my opponent can do. Bronze Wave is slightly out of the way of the rest of the blob, but that is absolutely fine. We have all our beasties stacked on top of each other now. Eternal Guard covering the back, while the Tree Men as well as the mighty Blade Singers carve their way through the Grave Guard. My opponent is playing rather patiently here, which is a good way of doing it. Chasing down units with the Von Karstein Vampire Lord in the distance, saving up his winds of magic where possible, and slowly cycle charging me down, whilst the Grave Guard hold the line as long as possible, and he is going to be getting a full surround as well. Blood Knights come in, do a nice little bit of cycle charging, up to 55 kills, but are forced off and wide by the might of the Eternal Guard. Looks like another buff or debuff does come down somewhere. Is a big fat Earth Blood from ourselves, trying to heal up what troops we can, and the Grave Guard really suffering under the might and tyranny of the Tree Lords, doing some massive damage. Every time the Blood Knights come in, they do sacrifice models heavily. We don't have the mobility in this style of build to really shut them down. They're going to keep falling back and fleeing and getting healed up by invocation of Nehek, but eventually they hit their healing cap, is what I'm telling myself, at least in my head. Blade Captain's doing a decent job, just literally supporting where possible, and still buffing the melee attack of all these troops, which is really useful on something like a Tree Man. Up to 60 melee attack, that's pretty scary stuff. He's going to hit very often, and of course he hits very hard. Blood Knights once again do charge in. It looks like a Dance Macabre is going to go down once more, trying to weaken Durthu where possible, but the mighty Firebark Elders are working as a roadblock here, and we are going to hit them with a big fat flock of doom. Trying to get off that second shotgun shot. Unfortunately, the magic missile from Durthu is pretty buggy, and at close range sometimes just will refuse to fire and take a little while before it comes back. And yeah, it's a little bit janky. If the enemy kind of moves out to the left, he won't turn and shoot, he'll just cancel the shot basically. Both the Blood Knights are getting a little bit weak. Looks like they are going to be falling back for a nice heal alongside all of these wolves. My opponent is bunching them all together here, which is the right idea, and heal up where possible. There we go, Invocation Heck extended version as well. Von Karstein Vampire Lord has charged into the fray. He's just been trying to hang on here. He does have the Charmed Shield popped, giving that 22% damage resistance, but this is a lot of damage coming in. He is not surrounded by friends, only foes, taking huge damage here, down to 2,200 health, although the Firebark Elders are nearly done for due to successive Blood Knight charges. Sword of Dave has gone down, weakening all these troops and their armor, catching pretty much the entirety of the Vampire Count's build. We do have some Eternal Guard in the distance who need to rally and return to the fray once more. Treeman and Durthu both looking very healthy at this moment, and it's our heroes as well not doing too bad, with the Blade Singers looking a little worse for wear at the moment. If we go in for a nice little cinematic zoom in, you can see the ladies are carving their way through skeletons, while the Tree can desperately run away from the field of battle. But Durthu and the Tree Man just towering above the enemy. Big swipes of the Sword of Dave, carving its way through undead, and it looks like a few friends as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, if he kills a load of Blood Knights for the sacrificial slaying of one or two Blade Singers, I'm sure that's going to be all good in his book. Not a big fan of Elves, I don't think. Actually, that's more Droids. I think Durthu kind of came round him a little bit more. Skeleton Warriors are being crumbling at the moment, minus 14 leadership, not looking too good for them. Branch Wraith holding the line as the Blood Knights once again rally and charge into the fray. Vargulf has come back, although we do pop an overcasted Flock of Doom, catching Skeleton Warriors, and the entirety of the Vampire counts build once more. Blood Knights desperately trying to retreat, although they're getting very close to their healing cap at the moment, and a lot of their allies are starting to break here. Both the Direwolves pretty much done for at the moment, with Vargulf getting very low. The two tree men working in a similar way that the Greenskins play this matchup with double giant, just trying to overpower the anti-large units that your opponent can bring, and they can obviously stomp a lot of the cheap, cheerful chaff, fighting back-to-back the mighty beasts, slaying foes left, right, and centre. Somehow the Blade Singers still hanging on here, up to 296 kills. Is very impressive work for them. You can see they're twirling and slashing at zombies now. Be interesting to see their damage value though. They've killed a lot of chaff more than anything, but that has obviously helped out Durthu and the Treeman quite a bit. I think for the second or third time we're trying to drop that shotgun shot once again by Durthu, but unfortunately the Von Carstein Lord keeps juking back and forth, and Durthu's just like, you know what, I'm not really interested in shooting you just yet. And the Von Carstein Lord trying to push the Branch Wraith out of our little safety net here. Another Flock of Doom going down, catching both the Blood Knights as well as the Vargulf. Not going to do too much damage, but every little does help as the Branch Wraith desperately tries to rally back to the cause. Big lamination shot goes down. You can see a few of the shots miss, about half of them. I think three little dimples in the ground there, doing nowhere near as much damage here. For Vargulf's point blank range, it hits so much harder. Big slap coming in from Durthu, knocking that Vargulf flying as he decides to fall back and retreat. I don't blame him, although at this point he may end up crumbling, so it might best kind of keep him in the action where possible, as the Blood Knights are really starting to struggle. Durthu getting very low though, up to 213 kills. He's been an absolute monster and terror in the night. Vampires will tell their little vampirate children of the horrors of Durthu. And the Blood Knights, once again, falling back, retreating, I'm sure to get healed up in a second or two. Good thing for me is the Glade Captain can continue to shoot in every time my opponent kind of sits back and tries to heal up, so we can do some consistent damage, trying to focus down at the Von Carstein Vampire Lord, who has forced away the Branch Wraith at the moment, so that's no more healing for us, although I'm feeling relatively confident at the moment, despite the fact Durthu is getting a little low. This Tree Man, who is Silver Chevron, has got 158 kills and over 5,000 health, so he's still a pretty tough character. Blood Knight's just about done for at the moment. The Vargulf tries to battle as hard as it can. In fact, Durthu doesn't even think it's worth his time initially, turning his back on the mighty beast. Forgoing one big slice off the sword. The Vargulf rather dramatically there does an actor's dive where you get hit one way and fall the other direction. And now the Von Carstein Lord is having to commit to the fight with his Blood Knights, and that's not going to be a good time. Bravely, he stands firm. His mighty steed rears back on its hind legs in absolute defiance before he decides, you know what, lads, I'm actually going to fall back and run away to fight another day. And we come in once again with our big old fat shotgun shot. And unfortunately, he's a little bit of a smaller target compared to the Vargulf, and we miss quite a few there. Durthu getting extremely low, down to 1,700 health, but one big slam into the ground, the roots curling up around the Carstein Lord will drag him to an earthy grave. Very well played to my opponent there. I know this was a bit of a box match fight, which some people aren't fans of, but, you know, it's cool to explore other styles of play, and it's a type of style of play I don't use terribly often, although the Wood Elves are particularly good at it, despite the fact they've had recent nerfs to Ariel, as well as Orion, and Ariel in particular is very good in this style of play. Very well played to Adam Shadow, though, who was a really nice guy in chat, and I hope he had a good time. If you do meet him on ladder, say hello, and, you know, he's a pretty chill dude, although I'd expect him to be a tough customer. Very well played with his Vampire Count forces. We'll get to the damage value in just a second, because there is some pretty wild stuff I can say for certain. Durthu performed arguably one of the best I've ever seen a unit perform as far as damage value. But before we get there, if you guys did enjoy, feel free to leave a big old thumbs up on the video. You can also subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We drop new stuff every single day, a couple of streams a week as well. Hopefully the next one should be Monday, but that's yet to be decided. If you want to send in replays to be cast on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There is a link down below in the description, and also links down there to my Patreon where you can support the channel. And I know a lot of people don't stay for the end of the videos, but if you have got this far, well done for one. And two, I do have a question for you. Would you guys be interested in me adding a layer to my Patreon where you pay a little bit more, but then I would give you like lessons like every other week or something like that? I'm not the greatest player in the world, but I know a thing or two, so if that's, you know, something people would like to see, some newer players coming in who want to learn the game, let me know and we can obviously sort that out and set it up. But But as I said before, well played to Adam Shadow. But I can't wait any longer. We've got to go over my build's scores here because it was pretty wild. And we're going to go straight in with Durthu. 221 kills. 31,526 damage value. Let that sink in a little while. That is absurd. 5,905 damage value. That is wild. That is absolutely disgusting. He obviously single-handedly, or didn't single-handedly, but he dealt a huge amount of damage to both the Vargulfs, the Blood Knights, the Lord. He went absolutely deep with the Flock of Dooms and Swords of Daith. A pivotal character, and still one which I wish people would take far more often in multiplayer. He is very powerful for sure. Branchwave fared a little worse, but of course the Scroll of Shieldings do help, as well as the Earthbloods, although we didn't use them terribly often in this matchup. And the Glade Captain basically got her face punched multiple times, got flung all over the place, but consistently given that extra defense and attack really helps Durthu hit that little bit harder, especially when combined with the Branchwave's extra attack as well. Overall, the Eternal Guard didn't do too bad, just holding the line, getting decent amounts of kills, and of course not much value because they spent most of the time killing skeletons as well as zombies. And the little ladies, the War Dancer Azrai Spears, didn't do terrible considering I absolutely messed up with them basically. Their micro was horrific by me. This unit faring far better than the Loix Tricksters, who just got jumped by the Hounds. And this isn't the best game I've played with this style of build before. I've also refined the build slightly, but I thought it was a close one and quite a good learning curve. Anyway, that the War Dancer Azrai Spears don't get entangled up with some magically enhanced wolves. It's not going to go well for them. You can see we spread out far too early on with our troops, fighting on multiple fronts, allowing Adam Shadow with good micro to pick apart our build as well as our Azrai Spears before eventually in the mid-game rallying our forces together and fighting as we should have. Now this is quite an interesting stat here. Nearly 20,000 damage dealt, 306 kills and only 1,365 damage value is pretty hilarious. They spent the majority of time just killing every zombie and skeleton they could find. Also did decent work up against the Graveguard and other such units, but they did hold a key role here as well. And they're very expensive units, so to pay for themselves, they need to get a lot of damage value. They performed very well, and their key element here was getting rid of all the chaff, allowing Durthu and the Tree Man not to get mucked up on a load of zombies and rotting flesh and bone, but instead being able to hit those key targets. So these ladies, one of the secret MVPs. The Firebark Elders performed pretty good, 107 kills, 10k damage dealt, 954 damage value, certainly not too shabby. And the Mighty Tree Man, still with about 3/4 health left to go, got 161 kills, 10k damage dealt, 1,411 damage value, and more importantly, was a good buddy to Durthu throughout. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.